Good morning. This is Grants Authorities Committee of South Cambridgeshire City Council. Just a quick update. We've got a slight issue with one of our colleagues delayed for a little while. I'm just going to defer the start of the meeting for 15 to 30 minutes, if that's okay. So I'll call it 30 at 10:30 and we'll reconvene if that's okay. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for your patience. Good morning, and apologies for the delay there. We're all sorted now. So this is the 26th of May, Grants Advisory Committee meeting, and I'm going to go through the agenda as we speak. First of all, apologies for absence.
We have an apology from Councillor Sue Ellington, but she'll be joining us virtually.
Thank you. And declarations of interest from colleagues in the room. I've got an agenda item for number 7, which is the Houseland District Village Warden Trust status update. So I have a pecuniary I forgot the word. Interest, sorry, thank you. So I will be potentially leaving the room. However, if we can't get to this item particularly, then we'll defer this until the next meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item number 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. So as always, could my colleagues sing out if they see anything? I'll just go through the minutes. Page 1, page 2, and page 3. That's it. Can I sign those off? Thank you. And agenda item number 4, which is the electric vehicle charge point grant funding applications. This is page 5 to 14 in the agenda pack. And Luke, I believe you're the officer going to be dealing with this?
I am, yes. Hello.
Thank you. Over to you then. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. So, here we have an application to the electric vehicle charge point grant from Cambridge Ports Lakes Trust. So what I will do is I will share the application summary so that you've got that in front of you, and I'll just talk through that. So that's sharing now. Hopefully that'll be on your screen. If it isn't, just shout out and
no, that is, that's lovely. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Great. So yes, as we said, application coming from Cambridge Sports Lakes Trust, who manage Milton Country Park, as you may be aware. The trust themselves are a registered charity and operate buildings and spaces within the park with community functions. So on that basis, they're considered eligible for the grant. Hopefully you can see the map there, or the aerial shot there, and with the proposed location of the chargers would be within the car park for the Milton Country Park, mounted on the sort of toilet block around where this red dot is, which you can hopefully see there. So yes, they're proposing to install 2 wall-mounted chargers, and there's also just here a photograph showing the parking spaces that will be served by the charger and the building to which they're proposing to mount the chargers. So the chargers, as you can see there at the very bottom of the page, there'd be 2 22 kilowatt chargers. So these are on the faster end of the fast charger category, if you like, and they can typically charge an electric vehicle in around 2 hours or less. So the car park itself is actually, it's not open for 24 hours a day. It's typically only open from 7:30 to 7:30 in the morning to 7 in the evening. As we've probably seen from sort of previous applications to the grant, it's generally preferred that chargers are accessible overnight, basically to enable residents to charge overnight. However, in this particular case, as you can see in the sort of top box there, and as sort of set out in the report, it's considered that there's sort of likely to be a good amount of demand from other groups. Sort of residents can obviously still use the charger within those hours, but there are potentially other groups that may sort of use the charger in good numbers as well. So for instance, there's around 30 nearby businesses just sort of well to the north and south of the site who could benefit from fast daytime charging for their operations and for their customers. Of course, visitors to the lakes as well, and the sort of various facilities that are there, where a charge time for an EV of around 2 hours would quite sort of suit the kind of time that people probably typically tend to spend at the lakes. And also then there's the proximity to the A14 and the A10, which also might provide sort of help users EV users looking for a top-up charge on those longer journeys. So even if they didn't require a full, roughly a full 2-hour charge, it might help them get on their way. But also, yeah, due to that sort of, as I said, that 22 kilowatt rating and that faster speed for these chargers, any residents that did want to use them would be able to charge up faster than they normally would, say if they were using a kind of a standard 7 kilowatt charger, which could take 4 or 5 plus hours. And so perhaps that would potentially reduce that need for overnight charging. So yeah, there is a sort of I think there's a balance there with this particular proposal, which I think it sort of meets. As you can see, sort of further down the summary there, the applicants have provided evidence of quotes from 3 different suppliers, and the Ward Councillor for Milton and Waterbeach, so Councillor Anna Bradnam, has confirmed her support for the application. They've requested the full grant fund of £5,000, with the applicants then sort of making up the remainder of the capital sort of cost of the installation. And yeah, they've provided a kind of an indicative time scale there, sort of showing that the sort of delivery is they've sort of planned for the delivery of the chargers, and they've also committed, as we sort of require them to provide a usage data of the chargers to us for 3 years, and to maintain the chargers for the same amount of time at the minimum, and also to register the chargers on a public sort of publicly accessible charging map such as ZapMap. So yeah, all those things considered, the application is considered to meet the criteria for the fund. And so yeah, that's the end of my presentation, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Luke. Colleagues, do you have any questions for Luke? Councillor Hanley?
It's probably it's not of consequence for our decision today, but for interest for me. Do you know if they have solar panels or plan to install solar panels in due course, Luke?
That's a good question. It would be great if they did, or they are planning to. I don't know myself off the top of my head. I believe the last time I went there, I didn't notice any, not on the toilet block building at least. But I know there are other buildings on the site that may have them. But I'm sorry, from memory, I couldn't tell you, I'm afraid.
It's not of consequence for this particular decision, Luke. I say it's just for my own interest.
Sure.
Councillor Raj, have you got any questions?
I don't have any questions. I know Milton Park well, so I'm for this.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Right, well, look, I've got one point, and I think actually where you were describing that the overnight bit isn't going to be available, I personally don't have a problem with that. The access to Milton Park is quite extensive, and a lot of people use it, as you said. So for me, it's the outside space, access and leisure, as well as the businesses you talked about, but it's the mental health and well-being of people, so that people can get there and charge. So superb. So am I right in assuming that my colleagues are in support of this, as I am?
Yeah, I support
Can
that.
I have a word?
And you can, Sue. I beg your pardon. I forgot all about you. How remiss of me.
How could anybody forget me?
I know. Go over to you.
I'm just interested to know who is the landowner. I have it in my head that it's South Cambs actually owns the land, and the 99-year lease is from South Cambs.
I believe that's correct. It's not something I believe it's correct from what I know.
Well, you might want to bring your stickers with you in case the.
Sorry, just some interference there. Yeah, I believe that's correct. I also am aware. I think we've provided the Cambridge Sports Lake Trust with grant funding through other grants as well. I think perhaps the either one of the community chest grants, either the biodiversity grant or the other community chest grant, the Cambridge Sports Lakes Trust have applied to us under. But yeah, it's as I understand it, it's a 99-year lease from South Cambridgeshire. But in my understanding.
I think I was there at the time, as they say, when it was established. I just had it in my head that it was South Cambs. And therefore, do we need to just formally advise them that it is South Cambs are happy for them to do this. I know a 99-year lease is a long time and we'll all be dead long before then, but I would like to make sure that everything is put in place so that there's no potential problems in the future.
So yeah, I'm sure we can, yeah, sort of give them, I don't know quite what we're asking for. Is it some sort of formal, I suppose, confirmation from us, sort of perhaps what outside this committee, that but more as a sort of as a council, that we're happy for them to provide these charges on this land? Is that sort of what we're asking for?
Luke, can we say, I mean, it is leased from us. Can we just confirm that the lease doesn't in any way affect what we want to do? I have no problem with this, but I think we just need to check the lease to make sure that there's nothing in the lease that prevents them from doing this.
Yeah.
So
okay.
we just, subject to that, I'm happy to support it, to go ahead with it.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was just going to say, through our Zero Carbon Communities grant, some bike racks were installed at Milton Country Park. So we have provided sort of infrastructure there before. So just to note, really, and I believe, yeah, what you've said about the lease is all correct as well. Yeah.
That's basically what I was asking. Yep, I'm happy about it.
Okay, thank you all. Do you want to put your hand down, Emma? Otherwise, I'll be coming back to you again and again and again and again. Right, so we're all in agreement here. John, you're in agreement. I think Sue's in agreement by the sound of it. So that's lovely. So that's an agreement, Luke. Thanks. Pending.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Checking up. Thanks. Okay, going on to agenda item number 5, which is grant funding for health conditions specific activity programmes. Would I be right? It is. Good morning, Leslie. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well. It seems like a long time since I last presented to GAC.
It is. It feels like a year. So I'm going to say over to you, and thank you very much.
All right. So thank you. So today I'm actually here to present 2 grant proposals for the leisure, to extend our leisure offer. And just to provide a little bit of context, we have 2 funding streams for leisure. So we get grant funding from Public Health to provide our Health EU contract, and that very much involves community development. And from that, we provide things like curling, the health walks, walking football, etc. And then we have a different funding stream which comes from the council, and from that we procure the services of a physical activity coordinator, who many of you may know as Helen Stepney. So with that comes a budget, and we and so that and within that budget, you know, we set what our priorities might be for the year. Now, last year there was a significant underspend from her budget, and we have sort of through some research decided that what would be the best use of that funding, and we've come up with 2 sort of grant proposals. So one of them is the long-term conditions grant. Now, every year we get contact from voluntary sector groups and organisations asking whether we could provide any grant funding to help supplement their physical activity offers. And this could be for things like, as example, Parkinson's. So they provide sort of weekly activity groups specifically for individuals that have Parkinson's disease, to offer some kind of.
I forgot to mention the nappies from my bedroom.
To
John,
offer some
can you
light
put
relief.
yourself on mute, please?
So yeah, so we offer or they offer sort of weekly activities for individuals and their families, which provides a little bit of hope, a little bit of sort of physical support to help manage their condition, and it also provides some kind of social connection and peer support for other individuals. But because of the nature of these types of groups, attendance at these weekly events fluctuates, very much dependent on an individual's health in any one given week. And therefore, these organisations struggle to keep these these activity groups going, and they are essential, for the well-being of those people that are suffering with these long-term conditions. So, as you know, we can't just give out money when people ask for it. So we've come up with an idea where we could offer a grant which will enable voluntary sector organisations and groups to be able to apply to us, where we can be open and transparent in how we support these groups going forwards. So you'll see from the paper that how we are using unspent funds from last year to and combining that with the same funding for this year. So I think this grant is for £13,000, and we are proposing that we would hand out grants for £2,000 to applicants. So we propose to launch the grant scheme from next month, which is soon upon us. And the applications would be reviewed by officers, and that we would bring back those decisions to GAC probably at the end of August to present you with the outcomes of that application process. Any questions?
Thank you, Leslie. That was lovely. I've got one straight away, if I may, because I've already got something in my head, as you may have imagined. Would making an application to this particular fund disallow somebody to come back to the community chest or the zero carbon or anything like that? Is this going to be separated away? I mean, given the fact that it is essentially like a health-based type of grant, you probably know where I'm driving anyway. So,
well, what happens is these groups struggle with revenue funding. So the cost of halls, the hiring of venues, etc. So this funding would be used for that. If they required capital investment, then my understanding is that they could apply to Community Chest for any capital requirements. Emma, are you in agreement?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, absolutely. Ongoing revenue costs would not be eligible. So yeah, any capital items, like we say to our applicants, this is the way we need to sort of go with the grants. Unfortunately.
Sorry, Emma, you kind of crackled a little bit. Could you just?
Oh, sorry. That? Yeah, no. Ongoing revenue costs through the community chest would not be eligible, but any, like Leslie says, any capital items would be fine if there was any sort of capital funding they needed.
Okay, so if I give you a what if scenario, shall I? So yeah. Let's assume that there's a community space within South Cambs, very modern, very well run, and very much near Melbourne. And it's working with the local groups and also the NHS. And there's a menopause cafe and a carers cafe, which uses one of the space in there. And obviously there's a small rental for the space for that meeting. Would that type of circumstance be eligible to apply to this grant?
Yes, they would.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that clears out. Questions from my colleagues? Councillor Hanraj.
So just one question. These people who you aim this at, how do they get transported to the places where the service will be provided? Like, is there a bus to pick them up? Or?
Well, these activities are already, they're ongoing activities, and they take place probably all over the district. So we don't provide transport to get people to and from these activity centres. So that isn't part of the offer. as far as I know at the moment, that people, find their own transport to get there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It's just that I feel maybe because of that factor, a few people will be missing out on this. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, transport is an ongoing issue. When we undertake community engagement with residents across the district, access to transport or cheap forms of transport is an ongoing issue. We do try, if people are having difficulty getting from A to B, we do try to connect them with the voluntary sector car networks where we can.
Yeah, I think St. John's Ambulance might help out as well. So thank you.
Councillor Hanley?
This seems to me like a very sensible way to use this funding.
Does indeed. Does indeed. Okay, Sue, I shan't forget you this time.
Thank you. I think it's a brilliant grant. I think the idea is good. My thought is always on a practical basis, and much of the social prescribing seems to me to be coming from perhaps one or two to each surgery rather than a group. And somehow there needs to be something that brings that group together so that they can apply for a grant to provide the service. And I'm thinking particularly of something like the mental health, which you mention in your summary, where perhaps there's one or two people from each surgery, and it's how we can join those all together in order to apply for the grant, in order to provide the service. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not sure that comes through as an option. It seems to me that we're actually looking to people who already do something to enlarge to provide a service. But it's those odd people in various odd parts of the district that bother me.
Yes, Sue, I totally understand. I mean, this grant is very much aimed at existing groups that are looking for funding to sort of subsidise their ongoing revenue costs, just to keep their groups going. But we are having ongoing conversations with each of the PCNs to look at what their priorities are and where they want to focus. If there's a specific health condition that they want to focus, then we're happy to work with them to help set those up where we can. So if that means opportunities for grant funding, then of course we would be looking at that too. But this is going to be a one-off. So in previous grants we've done, I'm thinking of our sports grants that we had last year. That was a kind of ongoing access to grants throughout the year. But this is going to be a sort of annual, hopefully an ongoing annual event. So we'll do our best to publicise this to existing groups this year, to invest and keep those going. But what we can be doing over the course of this year is be looking at where there are gaps in provision for certain health conditions. And then if and when we can run this scheme again next year, we will be pointing them towards our source of funding as a way of helping to subsidise them going forwards.
Yeah. So growing the service is really what we're into.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Linton. Leslie, just a quick one. You mentioned the PCNs. They're obviously, you already know where I've been working with that. But is this something which would be excluded, or PCNs be excluded from applying?
Yes, we would want we would want to work with the voluntary sector. So we wouldn't expect the PCNs to be running let's say a Parkinson's group. They might support it, but it would actually be run by, let's say, Parkinson's UK, or a respiratory organisation with the support of the PCNs.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm looking at my colleagues here. We're in agreement. Yes. I think Sue's in agreement online. So, John, that's a yes
Yep.
from us. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well.
Thank you. Leslie, are you doing the next agenda item as well?
I am, yes.
Thank
So
you.
again, this is paper number 2 is another opportunity to provide grant funding. So again, we've got a little bit of underspend last year from the physical activity coordinator budget. That's mainly from an income from the sports camps and an underspend in the sports camps. And also there's been an underspend on the exercise referral schemes. So we've managed to sort of make savings, but we've identified that there's unspent funds there, and how can we best direct that funding going forwards. Now, we're in frequent contact with our dual use leisure centres, who are the main providers of our leisure across the district. And they've got ongoing issues with regards to their own sort of financial stability. So very few of them have really recovered from COVID. So nationally, leisure centres are reporting that their membership is back to pre-COVID levels, but in South Cambridgeshire that isn't quite the case yet. We're heading there, and we've made significant progress this year, but we're still not back to the sort of pre-COVID membership that they did have. In addition to that, they have the ongoing financial significant increases as a result of the utility and energy increases. And they're sort of suffering as well with staffing and recruitment, because typically people in the leisure centre are paid at the lower end of the wage scale, and they're losing a lot of staff to better paid jobs. So it's not a pretty picture at the moment in the leisure industry. And we, in discussion with them, we've sort of been talking to them about how we could best support them. So a number of them have not reintroduced some of their more popular classes because they cannot afford to run underutilized classes. Because they haven't put those classes back on, they are not recruiting the membership, perhaps. It's not attracting the membership that they could be attracting. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. So we have said, well, perhaps we could propose giving them some seed funding to get some of these classes back up and running this year, so that they can run them at sort of less than 100% capacity, with the idea that they build up that membership over the year. And then perhaps we wouldn't need this funding again next year, but we'd have to review that at the end of this year. So this grant funding really is specifically for the dual use centres, just to try and stimulate increased membership and get them back to those pre-COVID levels, and just help them to sort of stay afloat financially and give them a little bit of support over the next year. So I think we're proposing £9,000 in total. And that's mostly from last year's budget, with a little bit of dedicated budget this year. So that makes a total of 9,000, and that would be about, we're sort of proposing £1,000 grants for each of the leisure centres. Any questions?
Thank you, Leslie. Councillor Handley.
I think the obvious question. Obvious question is, I mean, it's not a lot of money particularly, and ordinarily I'd be 100% in favour of this. But the question is, if we've got a problem staffing these centres, how is £9,000 or £1,000 per centre going to be beneficial? Because if you can't afford to, if they can't afford to employ the staff, it's not going to make very much difference. So I just wondered how you think this is going to make a big difference to these centres.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to resolve it. You're right in that £9,000 or £1,000 per centre isn't a great deal of money in the whole scheme of things, but it might offer them the opportunity to recruit or train up staff that are existing staff that are not yet qualified to provide these classes. It literally is it's a nominal amount of money to just help through a very sticky patch. What we can do at the we will be reviewing the outcomes. So you know, at the end of the year, when they report back on how this funding has been used and what difference it's made, we can then make a sort of informed decision as whether this is worthwhile funding going forwards, or whether it was sort of a one-off source of help.
Thanks, Leslie. Councillor Hanraj, you got any?
I think it's worth funding this because, as they say, they're going to review it in a year. Things are getting back on their feet, so I think I agree with it.
Yeah, maybe I could clarify. I mean, I do support this, but I just have my doubts, that's all. I'm just not sure that it will work, but I'm certainly willing to support it and see how, if it does make a difference, particularly since officers are going to come back to us in 12 months.
Councillor Ellington?
I'm quite happy with this idea because it will mean that Leslie and her colleagues will be in contact with the dual use centres, will have something in their hand that they can offer to help, as well as the advice and support. It will perhaps open doors and create new opportunities. So I'm all for it.
Thank you, Councillor. That's, I mean, I think words taken out of mouth, really. I think, yeah, I'm very much in agreement. So I think in the room here and online, John, we have agreement across the board to support this.
Yeah, I take on board Bill's reservations, but I think this is something that we should try and give some support, and you know, we'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
In that case, is that you done now, Leslie?
Yeah.
It was lovely to see you again. Thank you very much.
You too. Thank you.
Okay,
take care.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good morning, Emma.
Good morning, James. Okay.
Now, we were going to go to item 7, which is my pecuniary interest. So I think what we'll do, we're not quite fixed for this in the chamber here. So with the committee's gift, I will defer this to the next meeting. And with you, John, if you're okay. And we'll move straight.
Yeah, so long as it doesn't cause any problems, setting, you know, taking the scheme over, then yeah, I'm happy for it to be deferred to June.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, Emma, could you start on agenda item 8 for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So this report follows on from the Children and Young People's Grant end of year report that was provided at last month's GAC. It's just to give you a further update that we've received from Orchard Park Community Council. So if you remember, they received £8,000 in funding to help address antisocial behaviour. So having spoken to the Community Council and receiving their update, as officers, we're satisfied that the project has progressed well and is on track. You can see in Appendix A the progress that has been made, and as you can see, plans are to work with a professional graffiti artist to create some structured artwork at the skate park. But in order to ensure that the work can be achieved, Grants Advisory Committee is asked to consider recommending an extension until the 30th of October, just to make sure that they can secure a graffiti artist named Kilo. It's the one that they would like to use. So they've sort of just to sort of just cover, you know, just any eventualities. They wanted to sort of see if they could extend until then. The actual update that they gave, I've attended a meeting as well, is pretty comprehensive. They've done lots of detached work. They've created a girls group. 100% of those they've engaged with have reported an improvement in their well-being. 3 girls have gone on to volunteer at a local youth club and are starting training in youth work, which is fantastic. And they've held a focus group. So any questions on that one?
Thanks, Emma. I think this is absolutely superb, really, because especially with the artwork, I don't know if you're familiar with the underpass project that some of your colleagues, Beth and I, have been involved with in Melbourne,
Yeah.
between Melbourne and Meldrith. They had nearly 200 artists come and do their bit, and it has been an absolutely massive success. Councillor Hamraj, have you got any questions or points for Emma?
Just to say thank you, because I'm from Orchard Parks, I'm aware of what way this is being used, although I haven't, well, I am aware of what's being used.
Thank you. Councillor Ellington.
I think this is absolutely what we should be doing in so many places. And if it gets rid of antisocial behaviour and helps young people get on the track of taking responsibility and moving their lives forward, it's cheap. Let's go for it.
That's lovely then. Okay, so I suppose then we're in agreement down here. We're in agreement up there. I think that's a general agreement then, John. Okay, Emma.
Sorry, Joseph, you didn't hear that. Yes, no, I think it's
that's
really good.
Okay, thank you.
Well done, Emma.
Next agenda item is you again, Gemma. Emma, sorry.
Emma. Yeah, that's me. So agenda item 9 on page 45. We have had 4 applications this month, amounting to £7,047.43. The first of which is Cambridge Acorn Project. I'll just run through a bit of a brief summary on this one. They help children and families who have experienced trauma and or attachment or relational disruption. And the charity would like to partner with Romsey Mill at the Romsey Mill Youth Cafe, which currently takes place in the centre of Camborne, and they've confirmed that this is actually taking place at Camborne Church on Friday afternoons. That was one little bit that we had to get a little bit of clarification on actually the venue. And what they'd like to do is to provide a therapist sort of drop-in sessions, so that young people could just access that as and when they needed it. And the therapists would provide half a day in term times for an entire year, and this would cost £3,150, and they've requested the full £2,000 from the community chest. They've said that if they are successful, they'll approach other funders for the remaining £1,150. And if all these plans fail, they'll use their reserves to fund the balance. The Reverend Bill Miller from the church is entirely supportive, as are the 3 district councillors for Camborne. Any questions, please?
Thanks, Emma. Colleagues, Councillor Hamraj.
This is really worthwhile. I think it's about time something like this was put into place, so I fully support this.
Councillor Hanley.
Yeah, supportive. I see there's a question that the landowner to be confirmed at GAC. I don't think that was done, but does it make a material difference here? Probably not.
I don't think so. I think it was, Emma already mentioned where it was taking place.
The church, Camborne Church, yes.
Yeah. In that case, then.
It's completely independent of the church. It just happens to be located in there. Is that right, Emma?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, okay, I'm happy.
And then we're all in full agreement down here, that one, Emma. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so on to page...
Hold on, Emma, hold on. I've done it again. Councillor Ellington, I'm so sorry.
I know when I'm not wanted. I know. No, I think this is great. What I want to say is, in our other new areas, if only we could have something like Orchard, we've just been looking at Orchard Park, something we're looking at here, and introduce it to North Stowe and other new groups where young people haven't really found their footings yet. It would be wonderful. I'm very, very positive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellington, and I apologise yet again. Right, Emma, over to you.
Okay, page 46, we have Linton Village Cricket Club. They play matches from the end of April until the beginning of September on the recreation grounds. And they would like to apply for all the costs needed to purchase 3 pieces of equipment. So these are 2 rolls of rope. This marks the boundary and allows fielders to run hard at the ball right up to the point where it hits the boundary. A device known as a boundary water removal system that removes standing water. And a verti-cut quick change cartridge for their mower. So this gives a more cleaner, more consistent cut and controls the weeds and everything. Total costs are £1,718.43. They've not asked the parish council to contribute financially as they've already provided funding this year. And we have both councillors Henry and John Batchelor in support. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Colleagues? Councillor Hamraj.
I think it's good that people are coming out to play cricket, and I think it's good for the community as well. So I support it.
Thank you. Councillor Ellington.
I'm supportive.
Thank you. Councillor Hanley.
I'm supportive too, and I think it's good that we're supporting cricket, village cricket, because it needs to be supported.
Thank you very much, and I am too, so that's unanimous here. Over to you again, Emma.
Okay, so page 48, we have Shelford and Stapleford Strikers. They're a grassroots youth football club, and they provide benefit to over 300 children. And members include those from neighbouring parishes of Sawston, Hawkston and Trumpington. And the football club uses the playing field at the Stapleford Community Primary School for both training and matches. And what they're doing is they're running a fundraising campaign to help develop the football facilities. So this includes pitch surface upgrades, toilets, changing rooms, and a secure area for housing goalposts and equipment. They've also recently widened the scope of the project to include repairs to the whale wreck in Little Shelford, which is another of their training and match facilities. And what they would like through the community chest are the costs for the sort of pitch upgrades, and the total costs for this part of the project are £1,584, and they would like to have funding from the community chest for £1,329 because they've already received £255 through the GoFundMe campaign. So that's the balance through the community chest. And the sort of pitch sort of upgrades they want just to prepare topsoil and seed the goal and centre areas, feed the pitches, spike, scarify, all that kind of stuff, spray the pitches, all the sort of typical things that you would need. Councillor Peter Fain is in support. Any comments on that one, please?
Thank you very much. Councillor Ellington.
Just trying to catch me asleep, huh? I'm very happy about young people's football and young people getting involved in things. So yes, I'm very supportive.
Thank you, and it was a little cheeky one to catch you out there. Okay, Councillor Hanraj.
I fully support this.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley.
Support it. The only thing I would say is it's school land, and they've only got a year's lease. I mean, you know, it's not very likely, but the school could come in a year's time and say, "Thanks very much. We want everything that's on that land. It's ours." Is that true?
That lease is extended from 10 months to 3 years just recently as well. So that's, and they've had a change of head teacher as well. So there's been a lot of changes at the school, but you know, obviously, you know, I have actually asked if they could have a reduction in rent perhaps from the school to sort of help and the person that made the application is fully committed and is trying everything he can to secure this, this funding through the community chest. I suppose there's only so much you can do as an applicant, if other people aren't willing to or can't provide co-funding. I can see the dilemma and the challenges they've had there.
If I may, Chair, I'm sure you've done everything, Emma. I think if there had been a naught added to the end of the figure requested, I'd have been slightly more concerned. But if they've extended it for 3 years, then that seems fair enough to me.
Thank you very much. Okay, Emma, I think we're in agreement down here as well. Then there's a recommendation to you and John, and I think this is the last one, is it?
Hold on. No, Hardwick's preschool. Sorry, there's one more. Should have on page 49.
Yep.
You got that one? Yep. Okay, so Hardwick preschool currently looks after 32 children, and they run from a purpose-built mobile classroom, and they have an outdoor enclosed area within the grounds of Hardwick Community Primary School. And what they'd like to do is improve the outside area. A large section of this is bare shaded ground, so it gets quite muddy. It's not really that usable. And what they would like to do is resurface the area with a mix of tarmac and artificial grass. And then in the middle, they'd like to create an embedded nature area. They've said that the canopy covered area would allow for future community events to take place as well. And to do this work, total costs are around £6,000, and they've requested £2,000 from the community chest. They have been successful in securing a grant from the parish council, although the exact amount is yet to be confirmed, but they did request £1,000, so obviously they're quite hopeful that they will get that, but at the moment nothing's confirmed on the actual amount. Fundraising has also begun, with future events also planned. And they've also contacted local businesses to see if they can support the project financially as well. The preschool's on land owned by Cambridgeshire County Council. They don't have a fixed term lease, and they currently pay rent to the council for the building and land, but the preschool have always paid for the development and repair of the outdoor space. Green options include, obviously, as I said, a nature area. They'd like to include a hedgehog dwelling as well. And Councillor Nieto is in support.
Thank you, Emma. I can almost hear the questions as I speak, and I'm looking at my colleagues. Bill, would you like to go first? Press your button.
Yeah, well, I actually like the idea that they've come up with to make the area more usable, and we've got Cambridgeshire County Council at the back of this. I presume Emma's been speaking with them to.
I've not spoken to the county council, but like I say, it's on their land, so obviously. I don't know if there's any sort of funding that they could provide. I know that obviously it's limited, but and also because they're a preschool, they're not actually a school, so it's a little bit different to like a school funding, because it's actually sort of a charity as such. I think it's a charity. Yes, it is a charity. So they are set up in their own sort of like charitable status.
I think that's where I was coming from, the fact that county are involved and they don't look like one other question is they're £3,000 short from what they said they've applied for, or us or the parish, and so that's a lot to fundraise in a year for a small group. Have they indicated how they're going to raise that extra £3,000?
Well, they said obviously events are going to take place, and the typical sort of type fundraising, I should imagine, that you would do as a school involving children. I don't know the exact specifics, but
okay. Councillor Hanraj.
I had the similar questions to what you had.
They said local businesses have been contacted, so obviously that's another route that they might like to go down, maybe potentially get some funding from them.
So there's quite a few variables here about funding, where they're going to get it from, and there's no fixed term lease for this either. So I don't know if this is going to be successful in the long run. How long have they been going for?
Let me check. Bear with me.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think if I might interject, I think the
1982.
the questions around ownership of land, because we always specify parish council owns it, we'd expect half up front from them, Right, well, this is county owned, but as Emma has explained, the primary school do all the maintenance and everything, if I recall you saying that, and repairs. I think you said that.
Yeah. So that you know, the preschool, they themselves do on their own sort of like area that they've got allocated. That's where they do all their maintenance, and they've been doing that, and there's not been a problem with that. Obviously, the school would maintain the school side of it.
Oh, right, okay.
But this is the preschool. Yeah, this is the preschool side of it.
Okay, let's go to Councillor Ellington and see what she has to say, and then we'll come back.
Thank you. I always focus on the practicalities, and perhaps what makes me have some concern about this is that they say that they want to include a hedgehog dwelling in an area that they're going to put artificial grass on and concrete. Now, firstly, where are they getting the hedgehog? Are they raising expectations with the young people that there will be a hedgehog living in the house because they've put a house there? And it just strikes me that that's been added on to add value to a project, but it doesn't in my view. So that makes me a bit skeptical about how practical it is for them to actually raise the additional funds. So I've got a few sort of worries. Yeah.
I think the area in the middle, the section in the middle, is the nature area. So they'll be living, you know, there'll be plants and things in that section. That's where the hedgehog house would be going, I think.
I would wager that the hedgehog hospital, Tiggy Winkles, would have something to say, because the hedgehog needs to be able to roam and do whatever they do. So there's going to be fences around this because of the children to keep them corralled. Perhaps we should disregard that, or perhaps say that we're not happy with the hedgehog dwelling inside a closed area with artificial grass. You know, if we were to approve this, I think that would be a caveat that I would prefer to put on it.
And where young children may interfere with any hedgehog that does decide to live there. Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna take a leap of faith here and go to John to see what his thoughts are. John?
Yeah, my concern with this, there's the concern about is the artificial grass, to be honest. Artificial grass is not good for the environment, and I can understand why they want it, because it would be low maintenance, but I'm not sure we should be funding artificial grass anywhere, to be honest. And I wanted to hear the views of the committee on that. My other issue I've got is the one that we've touched on, and that is they don't seem to have any formal lease arrangement with the county council, and that worries me. And what I was going to suggest was that we ask them to seek that, or to at least have some agreement with the school, which they can show that that they are allowed to use that site in perpetuity or for a certain period of time, so that they have some tenure. Because at the moment they don't seem to have any. There's no, you know, if you were a tenant, you would have a contract or a lease with the landowner or the owner of the property, and you'd have some surety then that you would be guaranteed to be able to stay there for a certain time. They don't seem to have anything. It's there as a gesture of goodwill by the school. I'm not sure, does the county council even know that this is being used as by the preschool? There's no reason the county council. I mean, I've had this in the past. The county council would come along, for example, and have wanted to sell a building that a preschool's in, and they didn't realise that it was being used by a preschool because it had been organised through the school. So, yeah, I was going to ask Emma if we do agree to this, that at least we should seek to see some sort of formal agreement between, and it's in their own interests, I would have thought, to have an agreement with either the county or the school for use of this for the use of this site. But apart from that, I'm not happy about artificial grass. I don't like artificial grass, I'm afraid. So I would be reluctant to accept that unless the committee can persuade me otherwise. But I'm not a fan of artificial grass.
Thanks, John. Right, artificial grass and preschools and whatever, I can see why. In actual fact, the primary school in one of the ones I represent have just had a load of artificial grass because it was just a mud bath where the little ones come out and run around like headless chickens. So I can see why that would be the case, and obviously it's keeping them cleaner. I'll come to you in a sec. My overwhelming feeling is that we defer this until next month. It won't make the slightest bit of difference to them because they've still got to raise £3 grand, and they can get on raising £3 grand. That's fine. And I think the questions that John and colleagues here have raised, leases, etc., and approvals, gives this group enough time then to go back and then provide Emma with that information. I think we probably want to be really comprehensive here, Emma.
Yeah.
If that's okay. So,
That's fine.
I was just going to ask, is tarmac the place where little children are going to run around? Because that's not really suitable for preschool, a surface for preschool children, or children as such. They say tarmac and artificial grass. I mean, that's my question. The tarmac isn't a child-safe surface.
the playgroup I talked about has got a mix of both. It's got the soft, it looks like tarmac, but it's soft when you fall over on it. There's also artificial grass, and then there's pucker tarmac around the outside where they draw on and, you know, do hopscotch and stuff like that. So it's a mix of everything. Councillor Hanley.
Yeah, my view on artificial grass is that it does have a place, and this might be one. I hate to disagree with John, but I don't like artificial grass when real grass is a viable option, but it appears not to be here. So that doesn't worry me so much. It's ultimately John's decision, but I would be happy, probably in a month's time. I think I'm going to be quite happy if they can provide the reassurance that we're seeking. So yes, I agree, it should be deferred.
Councillor Ellington, I haven't forgotten you.
Well, I have my sort of say, and I think, yes, deferral is a good plan to clarify what really they're doing.
Thank you, Sue. Right, I think we're in.
Yeah, can I say, Jose, that, you know, as I said, you know, I don't like artificial grass, but I would, you know, if the committee can persuade me that in this case it's okay, then obviously I'd defer to the committee. But I say my main issue is with this very sort of loose gentleman's agreement, almost a handshake, about them using county council land, and I'd like to see some formal agreement between them and the school or the county council to ensure that they do have that right to use that land for the preschool.
Yeah, I mean, I think, John, hopefully our comments here about the artificial grass and the mix of services and what have you has allayed some of your fears with regards to the artificialness of it. I think the arena and the circumstances he used is actually quite appropriate, if you like. The other side of it is absolutely deferral to get that information that you seek. So if you're happy with that, that's what we'll recommend here to you. And I think, Emma, that is the last one, isn't it?
That is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, in that case, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Have the rest of your day.
Bye.
And I'd just like to say thank you to Sue, and hope you keep recovering, Sue.
Thank you.
To all of the thousands of viewers out there watching this slight car crash of a meeting today. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you next month. Goodbye.